This is Dr. Gadja, an economist, computer scientist, medical doctor, and global health PhD epidemiologist. I do this as a call-in to help Ghana chart a course for greatness and, in the process, help Africa along the way. There are many issues we'll be discussing on this platform, and we welcome your comments, rebukes, and questions. Today's topic. This is Dr. Gaja coming to you again. This is Dr. Gaja. I'm coming to you again with another segment which I've titled Own Your Own Development Pathway. You see, this concept, development, it's very subjective, and we have to see it as such. Else we'll be following other people's dreams that we cannot attain. Just as success is defined by one's own demands, likes, and from one's own perspective, so is development. So every country, and for that matter Ghana, has to develop its own pathways. Basically, what do I mean by that? What I'm trying to say is that the things that Ghana wants, I'm talking about the people of Ghana, may not be the same thing the people of Togo or the people of Benin want. And so every country must look for their own development pathway. There is one huge mistake that has been made by one of the great powers in terms of looking for a development pathway, and that has stagnated its development progress. Now, I wouldn't mention any country, but I think you can see it, because their desire to develop is to be like another. And so they copied the other person, stole the other person's materials and all. But it is very difficult to be a copy being an original. What I'm saying is that a copy can never be the original. The original will be there, and the copy cannot be the same as the original. So if you are trying to develop based on another country's pathways, you will completely be going the wrong way based on your location, your climate, your people, your culture, your everything. So to develop is not to try to see what somebody is doing and just copy it, but look at what somebody is doing, and based on what they are doing, frame your own development pathway. Frame your own development pathway. If you are trying to copy somebody, the best you can be is to get close. But you can never be the person. They said, or it's been said, that an apprentice can only be close to his master. Now, it is true that an apprentice can become better than his master, but only if he moves from under his tutelage. But if that apprentice continues to be with that master, his best can be close to the master. That's his best, to become close to the master, not to supersede the master, unless he goes away from the master and forms or finds his own pathway. We see a lot of countries, especially in the developing South, wanting to be like the developed West, like the Americas, like the UKs. And are failing because instead of copying what they are doing or looking at what they are doing and then coming to frame their own pathways, they try to copy them exactly and then find out that the things they copied did not suit their system or the purpose for which the US or UK did whatever they did. The copying country didn't have that problem. And so they go and copy something that is not fitting into their national experience. There are a lot of those policies going around Ghana. You think about the housing sector, Ghana is trying to copy what exists in the US, in the UK, and a lot of things in terms of even digitalization, which they call it. We don't need some of these levels, and we don't even know that digitalization has a very, very steep cost in terms of possibility of hacking, data being destroyed, loss of data, and all that. It is a very vulnerable system, and so lots of money is spent to protect it. Now, I'm not saying digitalization is bad. It's a good thing. But you have to get there where you have the resources to be able to protect it. Not resources in terms of money, like I have been saying money is useless or it's not anything for a nation, for a sovereign nation. But Ghana behaves as if money is something. But having the resources, I'm talking in terms of technical minds, computer gurus, cybersecurity experts, like myself. We don't have it. Even the police cannot catch even simple internet fraud because they do not have the experts. Something that you see IP address, you can follow it, you can trace it because the computer, in fact, stores everything. And every internet access has links, IP addresses from country to country. We cannot find out these criminals because we do not have the technology, we don't have the brain. Basically, people have not been trained in this area. So these are some of the things that become problematic when you try to just copy without understanding the basics of what the person. If you understood the basics, you will be able to frame a development pathway for yourself that may look like what you observed or what you saw in the developed country, but may not be exactly like that, and you will understand it. But we have some of these things that we copy hook, line, and sinker, and we don't even understand it. We're trying to implement it. Only find out we implement it for a few days, and then we can't handle it anymore. So you see many of the government websites are down. I remember when it was said that they will use laptops to track pregnant women in the country. Where is that program? Fallen somewhere. So in copying or in developing, you don't just copy. You have to master the process. You don't just copy. In able in being able to develop your own pathway, you have the leisure or the freedom to make adjustments when it is necessary. It is not easy copying somebody to become developed. Most countries trying to develop a few decades ago, maybe just a decade or so ago, heard about the stories of the Asian tigers, the China, the Singapores, the Malaysias, the South Koreans, and so on. And even Indonesia kind of slacking behind a little bit. And most African countries figured that they can do the same thing because their processes was mainly export oriented. But we are finding out that export orientation is not a great deal. You have to think about it deeply. Because China, because of its export orientation, is unable to surpass the US right now as a superpower, as a great economy. Because if your success is based on somebody buying your product, then guess what? You owe your success to that person. And at any time that person stops buying your product or puts impediments in your way to sell your products to them, you begin to fall. So export orientation in itself is not like the panacea of development strategies. So we have to look deep and develop our own. America became great not by copying the UK. America did not copy the UK. Actually, they tried to create their own pathway. And everything the UK did, they tried to do opposite. So it was very easy for them to beat the UK as a power and a stronger economy. To copy might seem easy, but to build is better. Let me repeat it. To copy might seem easy, but to build is better. Develop your own pathway. Not too long ago, we heard countries be screaming, we want to drop the dollar, dollarization, whatever and whatever. Now, when I heard it as somebody who understands economics, I was like, wow, you can't do it that fast. Because dollar being a power currency is not because of America. It's because of the perception in the minds of people outside America. So the question is, can you just suddenly change the way people around the world perceive the dollar? Just in a twinkle of an eye? You wouldn't be able to. Now, beyond that is the fact that when people around the world begin to drop the dollar, that becomes good for America because all the dollars find their way back to their home. And guess what? There'll be a lot of dollars for America to mop up. And as we can see soon, the countries that had the dollars, like China and the rest, that were feeling proud, and most African countries now don't have that much dollar. America has a dollar. And they've not even been able to figure out how to do the BRICS currency because they have to back it to something. What do they back it onto? Is it gold? Is it dollar? If they back it to dollar, it's funny. The whole world laughs. If they back it to gold, it's not available. So how much can they put out in terms of the currency? It was surprising that the world did not think, these great powers did not think deep enough about what they were trying to do, but they were just chanting drop the dollar. Now, America is not the one that said you should store your wealth in dollar. It just said at the Bretton Woods that dollar will be the currency of exchange for international transactions. So dropping the dollar makes available more dollar for America, and that is good for the US. At least they can reduce their interest rates, which has been going up for quite some time now. Because they'll be able to control the amount of dollar that is out there influencing the economy. Than previously, where they didn't have the control of the dollar, and it looked as if the dollar was in the US economy, so they were raising interest rates to mop them up, but it wasn't there, leading to very dire situations, difficulty for its citizens. When you produce a lot of goods and services and give it out even as free, creating jobs for your people, and then gaining the goodwill of other countries, at times is even better. And now you will see the US going around giving grants to countries, basically free stuff. Whereas China, through its Belt and Road program, was charging an arm and a leg. And not before, but after. Which meant you couldn't know the price prior to. And their excuse was that the price might not stay the same after we finish this thing. So we'll know the price at the end. And at the end you find out that is an arm and a leg is too much, you can't pay. The vital part of every economy or every government is to provide a better standard of living for its citizens, such as life, health, food, clothing, accommodation, employment, entertainment, happiness, and what have you. Every country, sovereign, should be able to produce that for its citizens. Jobs to provide income, to be able to consume goods that are not overly expensive because they are supplied in large quantities for its citizens, and not starve them with an export-oriented policy trying to take every good that is produced in the country outside to chase after the dollar. The responsibility of every country to its citizen, just as America has responsibility to its citizens, Chinese to its citizens, and so therefore Chinese have been exporting things to everywhere, even at the cheap, so that they can continue to provide jobs in China. The West Africa Free Zone, or Africa, I don't know too much about it. I mean, free zone policy, I don't know too much about it, as I've told you. But I don't understand why you would want to produce goods and services, for instance, in Ghana, and then ship the products outside. The problem I find with that is that once you produce the goods and services in Ghana, using Ghana labor, that means Ghana labor will be paid. And now you take the products outside, which means the product did not even come into the country. So you have a shortfall of product to income, which means your GDP will be short when compared to gross national income. The gross domestic product will be short when compared to gross national income. And what will happen? Push prices up. Because where are you going to get the shortfall to put back in? Is it from imports? I don't think so. Because that would be a more expensive way. But now they come and produce in your country. You produce jobs, you create jobs for your countrymen, true, but the products are not available to you. It's gone outside. And that is why I'm saying this export-oriented stuff, we should be careful about it. The product is gone outside, leaving no products for you. And that is why China has been stuck with always low rates for the yuan and low prices in China for goods and services. Looks like artificial prices in our market. So goods and services, resources are not in this way used efficiently in China. I can say that because I'm just talking. I'm not making any policy statements. Nobody should take me up on that. But just in analysis, you can see that. Is that what we have to do as African countries to get our people jobs? There are many ways to create jobs. Just use laws, regulations, and you'll be able to create fine jobs. And you want money to pay for that? You are a sovereign nation. Print the money and use it to pay. The only thing is that you have to know that when you do that, you have to manipulate your fiscal policy in a way that you can take the money back quickly from the system so that it does not affect prices. There are ways to do that. It's been done before. Nkrumah did it. Let me just tell you that he did it. Now, when Acheampong didn't figure it out. So when Acheampong tried to build cities like Dansoman and finish the Kwon Dam and build those institutions, the secondary schools, it led to inflation because he did not figure out what Nkrumah did. But in my view, Acheampong and Nkrumah are one of the major leaders of Ghana who really shifted stuff. The way Nkrumah did it was this. While he employed people to build Tema, the harbor, the Akosombo Dam, and all these major infrastructural activities, he did not pay them all the money he was supposed to pay them. The difference he put in scholarships, very good pension, like for the PWD. For the cocoa farmers, he gave them scholarship. For some of the northern tribes, he gave them scholarship. For PWD workers, he was paying them very little, and they had a very good pension. This is a way of not putting the whole income into the economy, whereas goods and services available are still at the same level. You have to wait and try to increase goods and services to match up the additional income you are putting in the system in order to keep prices at the same level. So Nkrumah did that. Acheampong couldn't do it. There are different ways. Singapore had done that in the past. I don't know what they're doing now, but in the past with Lee Kuan Yew, they built residence. And so they paid people less, put the other one towards a building which you will get into when you are 21 and get married. Like they give you a free house. It's not a free house. You've already paid for it because of your low income you've been receiving. You see? So there are various ways to do this thing. So create the job, pay the workers, and find ways to reduce the money supply in the system. There are many ways to do that. You can use banking policies. You can use whatever. FDR, after the Great Depression in the US, in the 1930s, late 30s, they introduced this thing called the Social Security, another one called the 401k. These were all meant to reduce the amount of money available for spending in order not to give a shock to the economy by increasing prices. We have to think we can find ways around this. Look at what Saudi Arabia and China did not too long ago, I think last week, as this Israel Hamas war continues. Now, they wanted Saudi Arabia, being a producer of oil, massive producer of oil, wanted to affect or sanction Israel by trying to make it difficult for Israel to get oil. But they realized, or not supply Israel with the oil they used to supply Israel. I mean, that's the basic point. But they realized that if they do not supply Israel with that oil, that will mean that Saudi Arabia will not make that money from the oil. So what do they have to do? Keeping that oil was not an option they wanted to do, because that will be reducing their income from oil. That's taking the oil from the market. Will reduce their income from oil or revenue from oil, and they didn't want that. So it was difficult for them to sanction Israel. So they decided to go to China and negotiate with China to take the excess oil, because the excess oil, when it comes onto the market, will lower the prices, or will lower the price of oil on the market. And they didn't want that also. Now, because you see, they play with OPEC. So they went to China and convinced China to take the excess, or to take the supply that would have gone to Israel, which China agreed. And so effectively, they are able to sanction Israel. Now, if you look at the geopolitics, as they sanction Israel, America will supply Israel with oil. But what will happen? America has to buy that oil on the market. Saudi Arabia and China have probably come to an agreement whereby China will only pay at the regular price. But when America comes in to buy extra oil for Israel, you realize that the price of oil will go up. And so the price America will pay will be high. Whereas China is still paying the lower price for Saudi oil. It's a win-win. The ones that get to suffer is Israel and America under the circumstance. I don't know how they'll play it when this comes to push comes to shove, or when this begins to affect Israel. But that is how you think as a government to find solutions in time of difficulty. In fact, the solutions we as Ghanaians have been bringing out has been so far not good enough. Not good enough. Gold for oil. We had done that before during Chikache's time, giving cocoa for oil, and it now work well. One would think we'll learn from that, but we did not. We did not learn from that, and now we have matured using gold instead of the cocoa we used that didn't even work well. We have to think outside the box. There are solutions. In every problem is a solution. But if we are not thinking, then it becomes very difficult for us to solve the problems. Very, very difficult to solve the problems. There's something that I want to mention about standards board. The last time in the section I spoke about standard boards and the trade industry ensuring that goods that come into the country are of good quality and are shoddy. And I want to say that just uh, about this, this week I was going through looking at the internet, and I saw something that said the standard boards had forced a company called Kumasi Cement Factory to stop operation, and they shut it down. Now, the reason was that they were using inferior quality materials to produce the cement they were producing. That is good. That is a plus. They said they gave them warnings and they didn't, so eventually they shut it down. Now, I would suggest not to shut it down that way. I don't know what the details are, but to give them a violation which they have to pay and then repair the stuff before they go back. So at least they've taken something away from them. And they give them time to go back. If they don't go back, they put the company out for new management and a new deal, which somebody takes over the company from the government, almost like a lease deal, with the promise to pay the government such and such amount of money. If they're not doing well, they switch it over to somebody else. You will definitely get somebody who want to have it and do better. Now, if you don't have anybody who wants, or any person, entrepreneur who wants to have it and turn it around, the government can give it to a bank. Banks have qualified staff to be able to manage finance and be able to do productive activity. So add it up to some bank for a while, short term. Just like you realize during Obama's administration, General Motors was going down. They gave it to a bank short term to manage. And they managed it till it came back up. And they gave it back to whoever had to get it. So we have to be thinking. Think hard. When we have problems, we have to think hard and churn out our own solutions, because copying is not good enough. We have to look at what the people are doing, bring it into our system, figure out, understand the basis for which the country doing it is doing it, so that when we bring it into our system, we can then configure it to fit our system and not have all these crazy, not conforming policies that we are putting out in Ghana because some other country somewhere is doing it. If we think hard, long, and deep about our problems, we will definitely have solutions, because they said solutions are in problems. Gaja, thank you.